Usually when talking about demos, I prefer to highlight upcoming indie titles I'm excited about or that show a lot of potential. Washington Prime is definitely one of the latter, but I fear it needs a lot more work before I can be confident about recommending it. This is a tactical shooter made in the GZ Doom engine, a modern part of the engine powering the original Doom released over 30 years ago. This is both its main strength and weakness. While the engine choice feels refreshing in a market dominated by Unreal and Unity, the development philosophy behind boomer shooters like Doom is almost diametrically opposite to that of a tactical shooter, and the result is a game that doesn't quite feel like either. Too realistic for a power fantasy, but too shallow for tactical action. The game allows for quite a lot of customization in terms of difficulty and overall look and feel. You get to choose your starting handgun, tweak individual aspects of the difficulty, use random seeds to determine enemy placement, and so on. Overall, I really like that, though I feel like the menus aren't very clear on the actual impacts of each option, especially when customizing your character proficiencies. Also, it should be noted that there doesn't seem to be any way of changing the difficulty once you've started your playthrough, which feels like a weird decision to me. Gameplay is very reminiscent of Doom, as you would expect. Movement feels great, quick and responsive, and both stages consist of running around killing enemies and looking for different keycards to unlock doors, grabbing any weapons, ammo and health you find on the way. Also, you can save any time, just like in the original Doom. On top of these basic features, Washington Prime has an added layer of tactical gameplay in the form of small details like the ability to load an extra bullet in the chamber of magazine-fed weapons, lean around corners, and aim down sights. Also, there's a rudimentary stealth system where enemies will try to track you down when they hear gunshots, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think they also react to dead bodies and blood splatters. Washington Prime's gameplay is balanced such that you can't really take more than 4 or 5 shots before dying, and healing is very sparsely distributed in the levels. You can of course tweak that a bit in the difficulty options, but even in the easiest mode you can't really afford to get shot often. That's good, the sort of challenging, deadly gameplay that I enjoy, and one of the aspects that drew me into playing the demo in the first place. The demo features 2 levels, an early stage in the form of an office building and a construction site stage from later in the game. They feel very different from each other, almost like 2 different games, and contrasting both stages perfectly encapsulates what I believe are the best and worst parts of Washington Prime. The office level is relatively open and really looks like what you'd expect to see in a 90s office building. A large, somewhat open space with lots of cubicles, conference rooms and private offices, along with the occasional toilet, supplies closet, and general amenities like a kitchen, reception desk, and so on. It's crawling with security guards, almost all of which are armed with pistols and nothing else. Playing through this level was great. There's a lot of room to maneuver, corners to hide in, alternate paths to escape through, and furniture to use as cover. The guards are dangerous but also very fragile, making for this challenging gameplay loop of trying to ambush them one by one and staying mobile to avoid being out in any individual guard's line of sight long enough for them to fire off a shot. I loved rushing between offices, zigzagging from one cubicle to the next, dodging projectiles, never knowing when I might open a door right into an ambush. Scrounging for medkits, looking for e-cards, it all felt pretty good. A little bare bones in terms of mechanics and enemy variety, but a solid foundation nonetheless. Then I played through the construction site. The construction site was the complete opposite. At that point, you're going up against fully equipped soldiers with bulletproof vests and automatic rifles. Suddenly, the enemies didn't die after just 1 or 2 shots, and the level design became a lot more restrictive. The developer's intention was clear, at least as far as I can tell. Fighting these soldiers head-on was discouraged by how tough they were. Instead, I was supposed to sneak around and slowly take them down one by one, except the stealth elements were lacking in almost every way, so my enjoyment of the demo plummeted. And let me be clear, I love stealth mechanics. My issue here is that there are simply not enough tools in the environment and player arsenal to allow us to outmaneuver enemies in interesting ways, and the enemy AI is as simple was MB. They swarm your position as soon as they hear a gunshot, meaning every encounter devolved into me finding a defensible choke point, firing off a shot to attract attention, then gunning everyone down as they aim into view one by one, provided they didn't get stuck in the geometry first. The enemies don't hang back and wait for reinforcements or surround you and find an opening or create an opening by tossing grenades inside your entry spot or sending someone with a ballistic shield first to flush you out. They just rush your position as soon as they end and die. It didn't feel like I was cleverly using my tools and the environment to overcome my superior force. Instead, the whole situation just felt like I had been forced to exploit a flaw in the game design to get past an otherwise impossible level. There is an attempt to vary the gameplay a bit by introducing dark sections that you're supposed to go through with the aid of a pair of night vision goggles, but I found them to be worse than going into the darkness with nothing at all. The enemy soldiers of course have goggles of their own, so you can't count on the darkness to make it easier to sneak upon them either. Now, can the developers improve the tactical gameplay? I hope so, but they have such a long way to go, I'm not sure it's worth the trouble. There's so much they would need to add, from ways to manipulate the enemy AI to an enemy AI worth manipulating in the first place. Still, playing the office level as a boomer shooter, there's this frantic, visceral kind of fun you can only find in games that force you to fight for your life against overwhelming numbers. There's an exhilarating feeling of seeing the bullets whiz right near your face that really works here, since the game models actual projectile trajectories that you can, in theory, dodge. And since enemies and pickups are randomly distributed, the excitement of darting into a random office for a quick breather, never knowing if there's a guard waiting behind that closed door, was a highlight of the experience for me. It's not perfect, the camera movement felt a little weird, as if the X and Y sensitivity were slightly different, and if possible, I would have liked to have an option to turn aiming down sights into a toggle. None of these are deal breakers for me though, and if the demo had only the office level, I would have been very excited to play through the final game. But as it stands, Washington Prime seems to be either a reasonably competent boomer shooter with light tactical elements, or a shallow tactical shooter with really good movement. Either way, by spreading their efforts, the developers made it hard to know whether the final product is more likely to resemble the former or the latter. It's one thing to tolerate one or two bad stealth sections mixed into a good shooter, it's entirely another to have that good shooter slowly morph into a bad stealth game over the course of your playthrough. There are two unquestionably positive aspects to the game though. The music sounds really good and is well integrated into the game, changing seamlessly according to what's happening.
Nice.
And the visual design is just great. Everything, the 90s aesthetics, the mixture of low poly models with higher resolution textures, the attention to detail devoted to the act of using a gun, reloading animations, muzzle flash, and even the way you leave bloody footprints in the ground after getting shot, make for a very striking look that set it apart from other indie shooters. Also, the promise of FMV cutscenes sounds intriguing, and I'm looking forward to watching them. Lastly, in terms of technical aspects, the game is really light, so it's likely to run really well on pretty much any computer. I had some stuttering issues early on, but they went away when I changed the rendering API from OpenGL to Vulkan. It has native ultrawide support, as you can see, an FOV slider going up to 120 degrees, FPS limiter, gamepad support, fully rebindable controls, and if you'd rather have the crouch button be a toggle, you can change that in the action controls menu. As far as indie games go, Washington Prime does a great job here. I still wish there was a way to toggle aiming down sights though. So to sum it all up, going by the demo, Washington Prime seems like the gaming equivalent to a talented football player forcing themselves to play professional basketball instead. I don't think it's going to turn out bad, but if the developers choose to lean too much into the stealth element without giving them a massive overhaul, they risk undercutting the parts that make the game actually fun. I'm not sure I'm excited to find out if that turns out to be the case, more like dreading it, but either way I hope for the best possible result. But that's enough from me for now. That was a look at the June 2026 Steam Next Fest demo for Washington Prime, available for free on Steam if you wish to try it for yourself. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, appreciate your feedback. Bye bye!